Hello, how are you?
Yeah. All right. Well, those of you that are joining us via Zoom, if you could please put your name in the chat so we know who we're chatting with today during our Big Valley Open House. My name is Marina Delajanis, and I serve as the Deputy Water Resources Director for the Lake County Watershed Protection District. And I also serve as the lead for the Big Valley Groundwater Sustainability Plan Advisory Committee. So this is gonna be our second open house that we have done so far. And we wanna mostly hear from you guys. So we have a few things that we want to discuss with you all and run through, but this is a great opportunity for you all to share with us things that you want us to be aware of, things that we need to know as we're getting closer to the end of the development of our Big Valley Groundwater Sustainability Plan. So with that, I know that we do have a fact sheet. Folks should have access to that on the table. We have hard copies as well. We're going to be running through that here in a little bit. Thank you, Daniela. But before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and just do a real quick run through of a presentation that, again, will just help us set the stage on what we've done, where we're at, why we're doing it, and where we're going from here. So a lot of these slides probably look familiar to you all if you join into any of our previous public meetings. And then I'll get to show you guys where you can find all the access of the recorded meetings, any previous presentation materials, et cetera, as it relates to the development of our groundwater sustainability plan. So with that being said,
Can I ask you a question?
yes.
I'd like you to trust me to take the Spanish things that you have. I know Gustavo, my friend, and he knows people in Big Valley, and to pass it out.
Yeah, that would be
And I
perfect.
plan to approach a friend of mine from Big Valley Rancheria
Okay,
and explain it to her.
perfect.
Okay, I don't know if she's into it, but maybe she knows somebody who is.
Okay. And then speaking of, we do have translation services this evening provided by Daniela Cazares. So thank you, Daniela, for joining us. If anyone here is in assistance of Spanish translation, we have those resources available. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, and then Christy, can you guys see everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so again, I'm just gonna run through this. I wanna leave ample time for all of us to have discussion. So if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to interject. Those of you that are via Zoom, I can go ahead and see you. So feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand, and I can take those questions. If not, we have time for questions at the end. All right, so again, here are just some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. So what is a GSP? Why are we developing a GSP? And next steps in terms of our GSP development. Again, and this is focused on our Big Valley Groundwater Basin. So I always like to set the stage. Can everyone see okay? Do I need to turn off the light or are we good? Yeah, thank you, Danielle. So I always like to set the stage and throw out some of the few water acronyms that we have. So AFY stands for acre feet and acre feet per year. These are common acronyms that you will find throughout the Big Valley Groundwater Sustainability Plan and then during this evening's discussion. DWR is the California Department of Water Resources, not to be confused with Lake County Department of Water Resources. GDE is Groundwater Dependent Ecosystem. GSA is our Groundwater Sustainability Agency. And for our Big Valley Basin, our Groundwater Sustainability Agency is made up of our Lake County Board of Supervisors. So there's 5 different supervisors. We have Supervisor Peiska, we have Supervisor Scott, we have Supervisor Svate, who serves as the chair. We have Supervisor Crandall and then Supervisor Simon. So they serve as the board of directors for the Lake County Watershed Protection District, also the Lake County Board of Supervisors, and also as our GSA. And then we have our GSPAC, which is a fun little acronym, and that stands for our Groundwater Sustainability Plan Advisory Committee. We have our GSP, which is our Groundwater Sustainability Plan. We have our Management Action, which is MA. RMS is our Representative Monitoring Site. Sigma is the reason why we're all here this evening, which is the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, which was developed in 2014 and then quickly moved forward in 2015. And then SMC is the Sustainable Management Criteria. And before I move any further, we do have a representative from our Big Valley Groundwater Sustainability Plan Advisory Committee. Thank you, Sky, for joining us this evening.
And I'm designated to represent domestic well owners. So if any domestic well owners want to contact me, they can reach me by phone at 707-349-7162. And if they want to contact me through Water Resources, I'm sure they'll forward that information to me.
Definitely, yes, and that is a great point. Thank you for bringing that up, Sky. Sky is your representative. If you have a domestic well, or if you have any questions regarding that, Sky is the person of contact for such. So just again, why are we here and why are we doing what we're doing? So in order to achieve, yes.
I went to great lengths to get a neighbor of mine into the dry well category, and Sky says that it doesn't count because she's not part of the Big Valley system. Do you want reports of dry wells countywide? Or you just want reports of dry well in the Big Valley area?
So on behalf of Water Resources, we don't only focus on Big Valley. Right now, this evening, this discussion, our groundwater sustainability plan, that's focused on Big Valley. But we do have an interest, since we are tasked with ensuring the protection and preservation of all waters in the county. As we know, water knows no boundaries. We would be interested in that. And
Any reports of any dry well anywhere in Lake County?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and then there's also the DWR tracking portal. So it doesn't matter if it's in Big Valley or not, we would still be interested in learning about that, any information, but again.
And your gentleman here, visited them. And
Yep.
it was very, very nice.
Yes,
It was very
perfect.
hopeful.
Yes,
Wasn't it hopeful?
Yeah, it was good. I appreciate you contacting me and letting me know.
Yeah, I thought it was very, very well orchestrated.
yes, and that's what we're there to do. We're here to help you. So if you want to relay the message from someone else, you can give us a call and we're happy to
I
give them a
certainly
call. Perfect. All right, so what are we doing and why are we doing it? So Sigma provides a solid framework for local entities to ensure that we can reach and maintain sustainability in our priority basins. So Sigma, what they do, the state, they outline different priority basins throughout the state per Bulletin 118. All of those resources are on the website. We can walk you through it if you have questions, but this is their assessment on what deems a basin a priority. So you have critically overdraft, you have low priority, very low, and we have one priority basin here in the county, and that is our Big Valley Groundwater Basin. So what they do is they have a focus. You can see here on this graph at the bottom, you can't see my mouse, but there's three government entities involved for the most part, and then you have the stakeholders, which are you all, who play a crucial and important part, because you guys are the ones that are in the basin, you know the basin, you can help us better understand it. With Sigma, off of that, they also want to encourage and help support the county, the local folks, to maintain control of the basin. Yes, go ahead.
See how it printed?
Yes.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
overlay and it's obscured. What's up here? Is there any, can I get access to what's underneath this?
Yeah, so what we can do, we can go ahead and print you another copy.
Are you part of the advisory committee or?
I'm a member of the public. I'm actually on my homeowners association board of
Okay.
directors, and we're in the
And
region.
are you the gentleman who presented us a plan last time?
I am.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then I can also point you to where all the other previous presentations and slides are, and we'll make sure that we get you a copy that doesn't have that
Yeah.
graphic, yeah, impeding on it.
Maybe explain to the neighbors if I.
If you can't see what you're trying to explain, right?
Marina,
Yes,
I have an interest.
It's
I
gonna pop
handed
up
you a
next.
plan
Yeah.
from 2006.
Yes.
And I handed you a leaflet from 2003.
yes,
And I am very interested in finding out about the geothermal water, as you might guess.
yes,
I'd like to know how I can interpret what you gave us and find out if it's, the geothermal water is still affecting the wells and what this means. I know a little bit, but I know just enough to ask my question.
mhm. And with,
I think it's very important that we understand about the geothermal waters.
Correct. And so what we're doing, so those reports, those were developed by the county with help from consultants way back when. I believe one is from 2003 and the other one's from 2006.
Right, I want to know, I didn't even know there was a 2014. But I just want to ask that question,
Okay,
because the 2006 plan mentioned geothermal waters at least seemed to be at least over 10 times in the whole plan.
Mhm.
But they didn't define them, and I didn't see where they measured them. And then the introductory letter mentioned them again, and I don't know how to find out how much there was. Maybe the gentleman can help me.
Let's talk, once we kind of get to the slide, we can talk about it.
okay.
Yeah, these charts and everything.
Yes,
Okay.
and we have graphics here to look at.
And just so that you know, all of these presentation slides will be up on the website that you can access. So you'll be able to access the recording and the slides themselves too.
Yes.
So.
All right, so with these priority basins, again, we have one medium priority basin you can see here, which is our Big Valley Groundwater Basin. It is ranked as a medium priority basin per Bulletin 118. We are tasked with 1, developing a groundwater sustainability agency, and 2, developing a groundwater sustainability plan. Now that's the first segment. After that, the whole purpose of SIGMA is to ensure that we reach and maintain sustainability. They have an end date, and I put that in quotations because we know that sustainability, we're looking at the long term, right? So in our groundwater sustainability plan, what we're doing is we're gathering the data that we have, creating models, looking at what the conditions of our basin is to make sure that we can avoid the 6 undesirable results. Right now, we are only avoiding 5 because we don't have to worry about seawater intrusion since we're not a coastal community by 2042. So in our groundwater sustainability plan, it's due to DWR by January 31st, 2022. It's going to outline how we can reach and how we're going to maintain sustainability for our groundwater basin for the long term by 2042. So SIGMA, again, not only do they tell us what to do, they also give us really good guidance and support on how to do it. So they have resources that we're able to look at, lean on, and learn from, and also help us get funding. For example, we were able to apply and we were awarded funds from California Department of Water Resources, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Program for the development of our GSP. And that's how we were able to onboard consultants or the experts in these areas to help us develop that groundwater sustainability plan. Are there any questions on this very quick overview before I move on over to the next slide? All right, I'm gonna keep on going through. All right, so again, here is who is developing our GSP. Again, we are joined by some of our consultants this evening. We have Christy Clark, who is our lead facilitator. If folks have had the opportunity to participate in our public meetings, GSPAC meetings, GSA meetings, Christy is there. And then we also are joined by our lead program manager and our hydrogeologist, correct? Thank you. Thank you. Eddie Teasdale. They serve as the leads in terms of the development of our GSP. As you can see, we have a strong team up here who is helping us get work done. So this organizational chart outlines who is doing what. We also have the awesome support and the awesome assistance from our Lake County Water Resources department. We have William Fox, who is the program coordinator for the groundwater program. So William is tasked with keeping everything good and clear and running smoothly. And he focuses a lot on the technical aspect of it. So the groundwater monitoring. So if you see us going out and do groundwater monitoring, there's a good chance you're going to see Will driving around and doing some groundwater monitoring. So here is our development team who is tasked with developing the GSP, who have been working very, very hard for a little under a year for the development of our groundwater sustainability plan. So again, I won't get into the specifics of this because I do want to leave ample time for Q&A and just active discussion. But again, this is one of the resources that the state does outline and provides us, which is a groundwater sustainability plan, emergency regulations. So with this, again, they tell us what we need to look for, how we need to do it. They give us that framework and we fill it in and we cater it to our specific groundwater basin. Because again, we're the locals. We live in our basins, we know our basins, and we know what has been going on. So here is a timeline. As you can see, I have some key dates here that I would like to highlight. So on October 1st of 2021, we released the notice of intent to adopt our Big Valley Groundwater Sustainability Plan. Again, this is required by Sigma, and we sent this to the tribes in the greater community. So not only our Big Valley Rancheria, but also the tribes spanning anywhere from Alexander Valley to Ukiah, Habimatal, the tribes in the county as well. And then we have on November 2nd, 2021, board update of the Big Valley GSP development. And then the GSA also considered the SMCs and the CNE plan, which is the communication and engagement plan. Again, every meeting that we've gone before the board, it is recorded. I will walk you guys through on how you can get to the access of those slides, recordings of the presentations, and any sort of agendas or minutes that we have taken, that we have done in the past year. Go ahead, Sky.
So to clarify, board here means the Board of Supervisors of Lake County.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
it's really important to understand.
Yes, thank you for
Not
that
the board.
clarification. Yeah, so when we do any sort of update in terms of community, so outside of our public meetings, because our GSA again serves as the Board of Supervisors. So we bring it to the Board of Supervisors, we have a standing item. And we also send out an email to the interested parties listserv. So if you're not on the interested parties listserv, we can get you signed up for that. So you can get those reminders of meetings, of what's going on, agendas, etc. And then, so November 12th, 2021, that was the initiation date of the 21-day public review of the draft GSP. So that window has officially closed, but our draft GSP is still on the Water Resources website where you can look at it, get any information, review it. If you have any questions, again, you can reach out to us, but we did have that formal 21-day review period of the draft GSP. So we could gather your questions, comments, concerns that you had in that draft document to make sure that we build the best GSP that will go forward with adoption here soon. On 12/22/21, again, final draft of GSP posted on the website. Are we still on track for that? Perfect. Okay, so that's that. That'll be on our website, and we'll make sure to update that. And when I say GSP, that is the document that we did receive a few public comments. So again, we got those public comments. They were submitted to us. We sent those to our consultants. They were looking at those public comments and made any sort of clarification edits that they deemed appropriate as related to those public comments. And just as a reminder, even though we had that formal 21-day period document, we have been taking comments and questions on all of the chapters of the GSP that have been coming out. We understand that this is a very quick time crunch, so we wanted to be as clear and communicative to the community as possible and give folks ample time to make these public comments. We are slated for January 11th is the big day that we're planning on going to the Board of Supervisors / the GSA to send them that Big Valley GSP for adoption. So that again, that will take place during the Board of Supervisors meeting. Once I have the time frame, I will follow up with the interested parties and folks, and we'll make it very clear of what time frame that is slotted to go, but that will be taking place during the January 11th Board of Supervisors meeting. And then on 1/21/2022, that will be officially the adoption of, we will submit the adopted GSP to the California Department of Water Resources for review and approval. And then on 1/31, we are slated to meet that deadline of January 31st, 2022 for DWR to post our Big Valley GSP to their Sigma portal for a formal 75-day public review period. So again, another opportunity to provide comments, but hoping to get all the comments prior to that so we don't run into any snafus along the way. All right, so this is a lot of fun. How do you remain in these conversations? Because although our deadline for the GSP submittal is coming up, that's not where the fun stops. We are going to continue to have meetings. We're going to continue to have discussions, and you can remain involved, and we'll fix that. Well, it's going to be the same for every site, so we'll make sure that we get you one that has all the slides.
Yes. I wasn't sure where that page came from. It's just a picture of-
Well, when I click on it, yeah, it's the stay connected.
Can we go back one slide?
Yeah.
Back to the date. Okay, one thing I want to get clear in my own mind, and if I don't understand it, probably other members of the public will struggle with this. But since the board, let's see, what's the date the board, when you saw the GSA, meaning the Board of Supervisors, adopts the groundwater sustainability plan is 1/11/22. how are they supposed to evaluate, and just to give a sense of the depth of the document, this is the draft version here.
Mhm.
How long do they have to try to evaluate this and come to a decision like that? And how can they possibly be prepared?
So we've been sending them every time that you guys have gotten a chapter for review, every time that you guys have had access to this, they have access to that too. So as lead of the Big Valley GSPAC, I send them all that information as well for them to review it. So they have access to it, and I point them in the direction of here are these information, here are the materials, here are the recordings. You know, so they're looking at it as well. That's not going to be the first time they see this GSP. They've seen this GSP, they've looked at this GSP during this entire process when it's been publicly available. They've had access to that as well.
And updates, you would update.
Yes. Yeah, so every advisory committee meeting that we go off of, I send them the minutes, the agendas, the recordings, so they have access. Not only are they looking at what we have developed, they're also looking at the comments and all the meeting summary logs that the GSP advisory committee gets. We send those to them as well. So they're able to keep track and follow along as we've been going through this process.
Do you think they're primarily looking at the recommendations of the advisory committee to guide them?
Yes.
Okay, because I mean, to me,
Yes.
it's just unrealistic with all their other workload that they could possibly
And that's
evaluate the details. of it.
exactly, and that's exactly why we have the advisory committee, because again, we have the uses and all the different uses and users involved, the stakeholders at the table, they're gonna rely on us. They're gonna trust the advisory committee to know what they're talking about and see the recommendations. And that's why it's so crucial to get those recommendations and get those in-depth meeting summary logs. And as you can see from the summary, the meeting summaries, they're very in-depth because they look at the conversations that we've been having. They look to see what people are putting down and they're picking it up as well. So yeah, they trust us, they trust the advisory committee to see their recommendations. And that's why we collect those recommendations.
And for people who may not know, you correct me if I'm wrong, but the Big Valley Basin includes parts of District 4, Tina Scott's district, and District 5, Jessica Peiska's district.
Yes, and
The other-
even with the
other
redistricting.
supervisors are just their county, you know, in terms of this, they're not directly related to the basin, but
Mhm.
they're in this, we got GSA.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're the bosses.
Yep.
So,
Exactly. And even with the redistricting that just recently occurred with the county, it still falls within Supervisor Scott. The majority of the groundwater basin falls within Supervisor Scott's, which is District 4, her district, and then some of it does fall into Supervisor Pyska's District 5.
In downtown Kelseyville, still in District 5. isn't it?
Mhm. Yeah,
And then, so then the Kelseyville-Finley water system would be in District 5, or at least the headquarters. of it.
yeah. And I was just out with Supervisor Pyska 2 days ago and we were at the detention structure and we were still clarifying that that structure still fell within her jurisdiction.
Does it?
It's
That's
right,
D5?
it's right on the line.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
I think there's a kind, what Sky's saying is that there's kind of a disconnect between us and the supervisors. You do very well at announcing everything and you're doing everything you're supposed to do. But how are we gonna get people to know and understand that in a 75-day period? When Sky has one, I have one, and I'm just still trying to digest it. It could be put in simpler terms or something's creative's gotta happen.
And that's
So
exactly
that
what,
the people in Big Valley
Mhm.
care enough to try to read it
Right.
and understand it.
And that's exactly what these discussions are for, setting it in a forum where hopefully folks feel comfortable to call us, come talk to us if we need to walk them through it, because it's a big document. It's
It
hard to
is.
make people read that. I would read that for fun, but you guys see what I'm doing for my career. So, but not everyone sees that. And that's our focus. That's our goal is how do we make people care? How do we make people participate? And if you just, talk to them, that's hopefully the goal. And that's why it's so important to lean on folks like you who talk to people in the community, who can get the word out there, who can get these ideas out there and these resources and at least point them in our direction. So if there's anything that we can do to help, I mean, you called us and how quickly, we were able to come out there and check out, the dry well that had been reported. We're here to help. And that's what we need from you guys is how can we help you? How can we help the community?
Well, I kind of got it today in the afternoon, meeting the neighbors. And
Mhm.
Tom just explained, well, You know, if the vineyards use up too much water, the state wants to start charging them.
Hmm.
That's what Tom got from this afternoon. That's something that people are vitally interested in. You know, a lot of people think the vineyards have taken over and monopolized the water, the people I talk to. So I think it's very important to put how the people feel as opposed to what could happen with this plan. And I just think, especially with the lockdown and the COVID, and that people are so isolated, and there's got to be some way of getting connected.
Mhm. And that,
I'm the guilty one. I don't have a TV. I need hearing aids. I mean, you know, it's me too.
Mhm.
But I think that everybody's way off in their own corner trying to do what we have to do here. And I don't see how it's gonna get done.
and we acknowledge, and that's a challenge. And, you know, especially once COVID started, that's when we started getting the work really going for our GSP. And, you know, we address these obstacles and these hurdles with the state, and we're not the only county facing it, right? And we let them know, not everyone has access to reliable internet. Not everyone has access, you know, even if we do it via internet, it could be either sketchy or spotty. What about translation services? How do we make sure that we communicate properly and appropriately? And, you know, some people were doing outside tailgating. I'm not gonna go send people outside in 20, 30-degree weather when it's cold out, especially when it's COVID. If people don't feel safe meeting face to face, there's a lot of obstacles, and it has been a challenge and it has been turbulent. So I'm definitely proud of how far we've come, but we know that the system that we have right now is not perfect, and we're working on it. And we want to hear from you guys. If you have any ideas, we're always open to hear.
And Joan, if it makes you feel like any kind of strength in numbers, you know, we do work in Basin across the state, and they're struggling with this same thing, that this document is a technical document that the state wants to see. They have parameters. You know, Eddie has followed the letter of the law and putting down all those things that the state wants to see in their evaluation. But then how do you make it practical for the people in a community as well?
I mean, a lot of these people haven't even reached out to each other for a
Mhm.
long time.
Go ahead, Sky.
So I'm just not sure, Joan, if you're describing that Highway 175 situation you were talking about with the vineyards. Okay, so I think it's really important, and it's really hard to grasp this. I don't believe we have any of those kind of situations in the Big Valley Basin. I don't think we've got this hillside vineyard type deal where the vineyard comes in, puts a deep well, and then the pre-existing domestic wells are going dry from that. And I think that's a much bigger deal in these hillside type locations. So, but I don't believe, and David could probably correct me, I don't think we have any sites in the Big Valley Basin that are really that sort of classic topography or dynamic. And I think there are certainly real issues up in the hillside vineyard things with impacting private wells, but I don't think that I know of, it's not happening in the Big Valley
But I
Basin.
think the concept is valid and alive in a countywide area. And I think just because it's not in Big Valley, we can't approach the communication. Well, this is just the Big Valley. We don't want it to include anyone else. We
Well,
want
then-
to include all of Lake County to decide what to do
But this plan is on the Big Valley.
with our water.
You know, I know, and it is, I get what you're saying, it's not a holistic focus. But in terms of this particular plan and this particular deadline, it is very narrow focus. But you're right, I mean, on the radio show, we're having this whole thing about the High Valley Cannabis Project. And, you know, you look at the High Valley Basin, you know, evaluation, it's like next to nothing. You know, so I mean, but you're right, I mean, there's a lot of different other issues countywide. But this is, remember, this is really just about this one little area that has a definite.
It's a big
boundary.
area.
Well,
It's the
compared to
biggest
the whole
agricultural
county, it's
area
small,
in
but
our-
yeah.
In our county.
How many acres is it? That's 43,000, the basin, I can't remember, 43,000
It's
acres or something like that?
36.8 acres, 36.8 square miles
Oh.
and 200, and I have it written down, 244,427 on acreage,
Okay,
60% of which is considered rural. For 30%, about a third, roughly a third is agricultural, and 3% is considered urban with the two communities that are there.
yeah, so,
It does encompass a lot of people.
It does, but I think, Joan, you're making a valuable point in the sense that water resources like water doesn't know the boundaries of this. And a lot of what is getting done here, and also with the folks in Scotts Valley too, who have been able to join in on doing things with us. There's this greater kind of awareness and working together between departments, between different communities that are outside of Big Valley. So Sky's very right that this is a very narrowly focused document for DWR standpoint. That's what they care about. But the great thing is a lot of this stuff has trickled over to be able to do things for the entire county overall.
Well, you got the Holden Raids with their little pumpkin patch, whatever, and you got the Scully's packing shed. And you got a lot of big names with a lot of investments. And where are they? They're not here.
Well,
They
Pat
sit on
is
the-
that,
they sit
Pat
on
is
the
a member of the
Yeah.
advisory committee.
Yeah, yeah. And on that note, we do have another advisory committee member here, David. So thank you for joining us, David. But yeah, with that, as they mentioned, we do have those representatives on our advisory committee as well. And we have monthly
The
meetings, which,
Farm Bureau, yeah. You've
Yeah.
got Peter Woodruff and
yeah, so we have all
Child.
sorts of people. And that is based off of, again, recommendations from Sigma on specifically water code 107 point or
were they
107.
invited to come tonight?
Yes, these are all public meetings. Everyone gets the invites. But we also understand that people have busy schedules. So we have another meeting tomorrow as well. And again, all of this information currently being recorded, I believe. They're seeing a lot of my side peripheral, but this is all being recorded. So folks are encouraged and folks do catch up because then we do get calls, we get comments. Hey, I watched this recording from this state. Can you please elaborate a little bit? So it's all available. If people need it printed out, they can give us a call, but we're here to help. It's really hard to go and knock on everyone's door and force them to come here. If I could do that, I really would, because I think this is an important issue. But again, it's hard to get everyone here. It's hard to make people care, but that's what we try and do. We try and do everything that we can to get those folks here
Yeah.
and informed.
And I completely agree. I think that Sigma is really daylighting groundwater in a way, in the sense that it's not, even though the focus is the basin, because groundwater has been daylighted in the way that Sigma has allowed, we have goals of increasing monitoring. That's something Water Resources really wants to do. And I'm going to be working with Sky to get people in the Scotts Valley Basin to allow us access to their wells. Where I want to increase it down in Middletown. We've gotten offers from DWR to put pressure transducers on some wells, even outside of the basin. So a lot of kind of trickle over effects just because Sigma is happening. And it's going to increase monitoring and hopefully kind of curb those effects, or at least allow us to catch them and monitor them, and then apply for funding to hopefully either get monitoring wells or apply conjunctive use projects to kind of better groundwater conditions in local areas.
But just to be clear, John, the meeting tomorrow is a meeting of the actual advisory committee.
I know,
Okay,
that
so-
was the two.
Yeah, so most certainly Pat Scully will probably be in attendance. The special district representative will be in attendance. And then what we call the school district person is in attendance,
Land
most
trust.
likely.
Land trust.
Sarah Ryan with the Big Valley Tribe will be in attendance. And what other members? Oh, and then the Farm Bureau representative, Brenna Sullivan, most likely will be in
I
attendance.
understand about
And
that
also
meeting.
Val Nixon. But so it's a different group than this, is really trying to reach out to members of the public. And can we check on Zoom how many members of the public are attending?
So we have one right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do we know who they are? Or do they identify themselves?
I don't believe not yet.
Okay.
We did ask them to put their name in the chat.
Well, if that person is a domestic well owner, I want to welcome them to contact.
Yeah, and we can put your info in the chat if you'd like as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back here. All right, so again, there are many opportunities for you all to join us. We understand, we're hoping to have more in-person meetings, and it's been nice to have that hybrid format. It's not just as, of course, it's not as fun and, beneficial as meeting face-to-face all the time, but we want to make sure that safety is a priority. So you can catch all of the board updates that we've done, all of the previous public meetings that we've done. Those are all found on the Water Resources website, and I will walk us through there here in a moment. We also are active on Facebook, where you all can get Facebook reminders of events. I know that the meeting today was posted on Facebook. Visit Kelseyville oftentimes shares it. The County of Lake shares it as well. So that we have a lot of other friends from the Facebook community who will share our posts as well. And we encourage you all to share those posts too when we post them. And then you can also find us on YouTube. So all of the meetings have been recorded, the presentations, you can catch the Q&A afterwards. So we encourage you all to check in on those, look them up, look at the agendas and the meeting summaries that we've had previously.
And there is, the majority of those are the advisory committee meetings and subcommittees, but there's an entire collection of public meetings going back to March that we had, and the recordings are there. They talk about, William did a fabulous, I was purpley with this one, but a fabulous aquifer presentation of what are the aquifers in Big Valley. So there are, there's valuable information that people can start to
And
watch.
what I'd like to know, did South Maine ever get the water from the Finley Water Company?
I'm not,
I know that the water in South Maine wasn't adequate to fight a fire. And Mr. Farrington was dialoguing with the city hall. Did that ever get solved?
I'm not quite sure, but that'd be a great question to ask our special districts representative tomorrow on the advisory committee.
Well, the problem is we have to catch up. We all have to catch up. We have to get in step.
I don't believe that has happened, but I'm not positive. You talk about the South Main annexation.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're familiar with that concept? Okay.
They were
It's been
talking
going on for
about,
25
Yeah.
years. You might not be right up on it.
Yeah, I'm not an expert, but yeah, 25 years
Yeah.
I've stumbled. over it.
and
More or
I
less.
never knew if it got resolved. I just know that Anthony Farrington wasn't running for office. It
Tina
wasn't
Scott's
an
taken
issue.
over on that.
Yeah,
But there were all kinds of issues that were very dynamic and very important, and people were involved. And then the lockdown happened and the pandemic happened, and all we heard is news from the CDC. And I just think that there needs to be something that happens to get everybody connected again.
and that's what we're trying to do, hopefully with these hybrid meetings and
Let's stay connected.
Yeah. great segue, Joan. I didn't even pay you to do that. So we have a stay connected where you can, and if
If we don't understand what this gentleman is trying to tell us, we need to ask him, what do you mean by this?
And that's what we're doing. We're here to help. We're here to make sure that the information that we provide is in a format that makes sense to you. And that's exactly what our job is and our objective is. And, of course, we have this technical document. Sigma lets us know what we need to do. So that's exactly what our consultants do. They put in what they need to and why they need to, because again, if we don't build this document properly, we risk losing control of our basin. So we want to make sure that we're doing this appropriately and that we're doing this in the most practical way. But if you need help understanding something, that's when you give us a call and we can walk you through it. We
Well,
can show you.
I understand what I put together. I understand that.
Mhm.
But I tried to understand this and all these graphs. I mean,
And a lot of them, honestly, if you do go back and watch the GSPAC recordings, other people have the same questions as you, and Eddie kind of answers them in layman terms. So I don't know exactly which graphs you're referring to, but many people, many members of the GSPAC had the same questions you had and were confused about certain parts. And Eddie goes into detail and kind of explains the graphs.
and I
for
mean,
it.
I'm college educated. I'm
Mhm.
not stupid. I'm a published writer.
Yeah, nobody on the
You know, I'm
GSPAC
not
is either.
stupid.
Mhm.
And I got an A in biology at the University of Minnesota. I mean, I do have an analytical mind,
Mhm.
but
So
it takes courage to even open that book. Sharon.
That's fair.
Joan, do you have access to the internet? to be
Yes,
able to
I
watch
do.
videos?
Every
Okay.
day I go to a public computer and I work on it.
Then definitely make sure that you pay
I
attention
did.
when Marina walks through where you can find things, and you can start with some of the public ones that have some of the just basic tools of it. But like William just said, there were a lot of GSPAC members that the tech team then, I remember John McHugh one time from the tech team answering something beautifully, and everybody's like, wow, okay, now, because it's hard to have that double focus.
Well, and I
of
don't think the state has done that hell of a good job
the state wants to-
managing the regional water quality when the California is sinking a foot a year. I think they've done a terrible job. And we ought to tell them.
And that's why we're trying to show it in our GSP.
Well, why you want to keep local control
Yes,
over it. So
yes.
That document is your key to local control
Yeah,
right there.
Because if we can show them that we know what we're doing and this is why we should be doing it, that's exactly what this
You can
document
see how
does.
many lawsuits there are against the Regional Water Quality Control Board. Quite a few.
Mhm.
Anyway, I don't mean to complain.
You're good, Joan. So with that, we have to stay connected. We encourage folks to go ahead and put in your name, your email, your address, your city and your phone number, whether you are in the basin or out of the basin. If you need assistance on how to get there, we can show you on how to get there. Again, after this presentation, I'll walk you through the website and I can walk you through on how to submit that form.
Did you have a question?
I just want to know where that is.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you there. We're gonna get to it. Yeah, it's on the website. So I'll walk you through it. And then even if it's easier for you to give us a call at Water Resources, you can give us a call or send us an email and we can fill it out for you. Yeah.
It just doesn't say.
So here is all the information. Again, here's our Water Resources website. Everything is available on this web. I am going to try and open this up. Yeah. Yes, so that is water.resources@lakecountyca.gov.
It's not printed on here someplace?
No, but I can, it's on the presentation,
On the last.
on the very last
Okay,
slide.
okay.
Yeah,
It's
Water
on.
resources.
Can you fill that out and send it in?
Yeah, you
I just want to do it. I just, you know, it's-
Yeah, but you should just share the screen for the
Apparently it
website.
Yeah.
exists, I'd love to do it. Or
Yeah.
show me what it is.
email.
No, I know.
And it's also on here.
Did you get one of these?
Also on the frequently asked questions.
Does it look like that?
Yes,
Yeah.
you did.
Yeah.
There's two sides.
It's
yeah.
on there, and then it's also on the frequently asked questions
Oh,
page
that's
too.
yeah. And we'll walk through that here in a moment because I want us to make sure we can go through that. Yeah, so if you want to find out how to get all of this information, you can just Google Lake County Water Resources. And we're the very first one that you pop up on. And all of our information is here. So the most important information is right here on the right-hand side, to contact us. You can come see us in person. You can give us a call. You can send us a fax. You can email us. Or if you wanted to reach out to any of us individually, all of our contact information and emails are right here. So if you want to send me an email or if you want to send William Fox an email, you can go ahead and do that. But in terms of our groundwater sustainability plan, you can go on the Water Resources website. You're going to go to Programs and Projects and you're going to scroll on down to Big Valley GSP. So you can click on that. And booyah, here's our flyer for today. We keep this updated. William does an awesome job. Yeah, and that's also on Facebook too. So yeah, and you can follow us on Facebook. And again, we posted that flyer on Facebook. So all of our contact information is there. You can even message us on Facebook. We're actively patrolling those messages as well, and we will respond to you. So you can access all the information here. If you scroll on down, here is the Big Valley GSP documentation. So here's our entire Big Valley GSP. You can click on it. You can get to the specific sections of the GSP. Here is when we had our public comment period open. And then here's how folks were able to submit their public comments. If you scroll on down, here are all the boards of supervisor updates given by the Water Resources Department as they relate to the GSP. So if you click on the left-hand side here, it says the item, and then it has the item description. So if you know what you're looking for, you can scroll on down. If not, you can read this and you can see when we went to the board, why we went to the board. If you want to watch the actual presentation, you can go ahead, and once the computer wants to load, it'll take you, I believe, to the Granicus item. And then that way you can watch it via Granicus, the recording. So we don't have to do that, but here's the agenda item. You can click on it. And then of course, anything that is on the agenda item, any sort of memo or attachments would be on there as well. On the actual agenda item for the Board of Supervisors, but of course we have those on our website as well. So I'm just gonna scroll on down. And again, here's all the information on why were we designated a medium priority basin? How did we get here and why are we here?
We really need to go through that. That's the number one question that I get that I can't answer.
This one right here?
Yeah, I know David could explain it perfectly.
No, the score, the
Why
scoring.
why was
line,
the Big Valley
the
Basin designated? Why do we have this process? Why are we going through this hassle? Because everything I'm seeing from this whole process says we have a stable groundwater basin and we have an irrelevant number of dry wells. I just don't get it, why we have to go through this.
I don't think we have a stable groundwater.
Well, Eddie's presented
we're being
reams of
told.
data and well monitoring, Williams monitoring, and we're just not seeing that in the
Scott's
data.
also forward thinking too, so sometimes they'll do the rankings and the criteria based on projected land use, projected growth, projected agricultural use, those type of
Well, if
things.
you just
So
zoom
I
in
know
on
that there
the
was a huge
the
effort at the
picture on
beginning
our
of this to
website,
try
it
to
shows like
bump it back
the
down to
score,
below
like all of
40.
that is why.
Yeah.
And all they're
Just
doing is
not-
How
checking
do I
it
zoom
twice a
in on
year.
There's, I think it's
Well,
usually
no,
there.
no, that's actually
There's
more
like a-
frequent than that. The testing, the depth of water testing. Yeah, no, there's, I think,
That's what I hear you
46
say on the
wells being
radio.
done monthly now in Big Valley.
There's 10 monthly, 46 biannually.
Okay, so there's 10 were
Are
done
you trying
monthly
to
all
make
last
it-
year.
I was trying to make it
There's a
bigger.
tremendous
Yeah,
amount of data.
it's
We're just not seeing
like
alarming
plus.
You can, I think you
changes.
could also
So,
right-click the
so
image.
people want to
Okay,
know.
there you go.
Perfect, okay.
Yeah, probably, yeah, even more. But
I would just open it.
Yeah, it's control plus.
Perfect. So here is a snipping of, and this is all on Bulletin 118. Again, that is outlined by DWR, and they have an entire document in Sky. I can walk you through where the findings at, how they got the findings. I can pull it up for you because they have all that information there. So they look at different components. This is just 4 of the components that they look at. I believe they look at closely 8.
this is the link to all of the basins, so you can even see why Scotts Valley was designated low priority or some of the other basins like non-Big Valley.
Yeah,
But is there a simple phrase or two to
So
describe why Big
these-
Valley is
these-
designated as
These circles.
what I
are-
would say has a problem?
So this is the point. So
Okay.
basically, I don't know what the threshold of points was, but because we got this certain amount of points that were added up based on these 4 categories. So it's based on population
Okay.
growth.
So those numbers, you say population is 1 point?
no, so the point,
A priority point.
yeah, it's a
Okay.
priority point. So that's just
Okay.
one component.
Okay, so population is 1.
Yeah.
Population growth, public supply
That's
wells.
like projected growth in the future.
Yeah.
How
Yes.
many points is that?
3.
3, okay.
Yeah.
That we earned.
And I think there's more.
There's like
more,
8.
But this is just a screenshot, so it doesn't encapsulate it. So I do suggest you go to the link on there if you want to look at all of the scoring. But basically, all these categories ended up to giving us a score that deemed it medium priority. And I know historically we did it, and I wasn't a part of it. I wasn't here yet, but it was historically, it was categorized as high priority, and Scotts Valley was categorized as medium priority. But we didn't have all the correct data submitted, so we reassigned it and re-uploaded it, and then it came back as Scotts Valley low priority and Big Valley as medium.
And it's my understanding it was not just on the margin of medium and low, it was squarely in the middle of.
Yeah.
medium. So,
Big Valley.
correct.
Yeah, and that,
But there's more categories of points?
yes.
See, I've seen that. I think I know I've read that thing, but I went, wait, this doesn't add up.
Yeah, and what I
Yeah.
can do is I can also share with you the link. So they also have a document of what each component is, how they do the analysis of it, and what does it mean.
It has its own website.
Yeah.
Bulletin 118 has its own website that has tools.
So
and
5
different
is population growth and 5 is total wealth. So that's half of the. Oh, this is just, you're just saying this 20 is the total of all. we have.
Yeah, of all we've got.
And you don't know the threshold. So
And there's one graph that kind of, I was talking to somebody else about this, but like the total wells, they only do them by section, so you don't know the exact GPS coordinates of like every well, like you were saying. You only know like what section on like town range section it is in quadrant. That's how the wells are put in, just to like environmental health. So you could have like a well in this section and it goes outside of the basin, but it's considered a Big Valley well because you don't know exactly where in the section it is. So there might be more wells that are actually outside of the basin, but counted towards the prioritization, just because we don't know the exact location of those wells. We just know they're in that one section.
so there's too many wells and we might have a lot more growth. That's a.
Well, based on the wells in the well completion reports, that's how it was scored as a priority.
And so here, it's 6:20 and I do want us to run through the
Okay.
fact sheet and whatnot, but here is the Bulletin 118. So again, this is for the entire state. I just zoomed in on our Big Valley Basin. And if you click on these, all of this information will pop up. It can show you what data they have, how they collected it. And again, you can see the different components here. And this is a really fun tool to actually play with. So I definitely encourage you all to go ahead and skim through it when you get the chance, but you can see all the different components. So we have population for component 1. Component 2 is population growth. Component 3, public supply wells. Component 4, total wells. Component 5, irrigated acres. 6 is groundwater reliance. 6B is groundwater supply. 7 is impacts. 8 is habitat and other information. And then this is all downloadable as well. So if you want to play with it in GIS or any other in Excel, you can.
Does it tell you the threshold then? The 20, you were saying it's in the.
You
mid-range?
see right there on the far left, it says low and very low, 14 points, medium, high, greater than 14.
Okay.
Yeah. So going back to the website again, how do I zoom out of this?
Do the negative sign.
That would make too much sense. Okay. So again, you can access all of our public information and recording, sorry. There, if you're interested in tuning into any of our advisory committee meetings, so you can go to the Big Valley GSA. If you want to be reminded of who sits on the GSA, any of the formation documents, all that's here. Here's our Big Valley stakeholders, which make up our Groundwater Sustainability Plan Advisory Committee. And I know you had a question on how to actually get to the Stay Connected. It's actually located on a few different areas of our website. If you just go here, scroll on down to Big Valley GSP, it'll take you to Stay Connected, and it'll pop you right here, and then we'll be able to have access to that once you submit your information, of course. And then, of course, the advisory committee documents, all that information is here. It has the project documents. So Joan, a lot of your documents that you've been able to find are all located here. Here are the GSPAC agendas, minutes, additional items, including videos and slides. Here are some of the subcommittee meetings that we've had, including the implementation and finance subcommittee meeting. Here are those meeting informations, the hydrologic model subcommittee. Again, additional information in the SMC, scrolling on down, GDE. So all that information is here and available for you all to look at, share, etc. If something is, you can't find it easily, go ahead and give us a call. We actively try to update our website to make it as user-friendly as possible. We understand there's a lot of information, but we do a lot of fun things. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the light, and we will take any additional questions right now before we dive in to the fact sheet that has been developed. There's been 2 of them. Does anyone need those 2 documents? And for those of you that are joining us via Zoom, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen to show you. Oh, I can't, I keep doing that. So let's go ahead. Which one do you want to start off with first, Christy?
It does not matter. So just to preface what these are, the advisory committee had asked us to start to develop materials that were handoutable to people. You know, something that if you were visiting somebody that you could hand out to people. That was specific to what the GSP was itself, but realizing that you kind of got to tell people what groundwater is first, and like who's managing the groundwater in the basin, those type of things too. So there's a 2-sided sheet that is kind of like a full circle look at all of the different elements. And then the companion piece is this frequently asked questions. And ideally, these would start to live on the website where people can access them. I know other basins have done it that way, where you can just, their little drop-down menus where you can different frequently asked questions. But the nice thing about the frequently asked questions document is that it can be updated constantly. So any public meetings, any questions that get sent into the water resources general email, all of those things can just constantly be updated onto this frequently asked questions. And the nice thing about that is that it can change over time as implementation starts to happen and that we start to understand more about what's going on. Because certainly this is just the first step in this process. So it's the frequently asked questions document is separated into general SGMA related questions that people might have, realizing that in and of itself is a little complicated sometimes. So just kind of breaking it down of what is groundwater? How did Sigma come about? What is it? What is a groundwater sustainability plan? What is a groundwater sustainability agency? Some of those basic things. And then it starts to talk more in depth about the basin itself, about Big Valley Basin. And it talks about who manages the water there, where is Big Valley Basin, and those type of things. So read the entire thing in its entirety, but the purpose of this is that frequently asked questions can always be printed out, but to reside somewhere where people can go and just get the answer to the question that they have, rather than sitting through an entire presentation that they have just a specific question to something. And then it can evolve and change over time. And then the fact sheet is something that can also change, although I think having a good basic piece that describes some of the background for people who may have zero understanding of what groundwater is, and that's a helpful start. Plus it has all the contact information on it. It has some of the website landing things. It tells people how to do the stay connected to do that. So that should just be handed out. And what we can do is put that electronically up so that you could share it with people that way too. So
And I just want to echo what Christy said. These are working documents, so they're developed for you. So if you guys are reading these and you have any input, comments, or things like, hey, it'd be really nice if you guys can include this part of it, let us know. That's what we want to do. And of course, we don't want to get too extensive with it, because then you're looking at a GSP 0.2, right? We want to make it as reader friendly as possible. So it's important that we put the right information, the proper information there, but it's not something that if someone sees 15 pages that they get scared. We want to make it as user friendly as possible. So we acknowledge it's a lot of information. There's a lot there. So any way that we can make it as approachable and beneficial to you all, that's what we want to hear. So with that, let's go ahead and just skim through these. As Christy said, we don't have to read these word for word, but let's start out with this one, Christy. Is there anything that you want to highlight? Or I don't know if you all, as you're going through it, this is the time to share with us or ask any questions or clarification. So
yeah, so this first section
one
is
second, Christy, sorry. Go ahead, Joan. Yes.
I think that at tomorrow's meeting, it would be a good idea if there was more give and take, question and answer. I think that this gentleman has done a lot of work. He's very professional. He knows what he needs. But I think that there should be a longer question and answer period, not just for me or Scott, but for the members themselves, for the Farm Bureau lady, for Peter Windrum. He said the whole thing is false. And I think that they should be allowed to ask questions to the people who know, so that this gentleman would have credibility and the other people would feel that their opinion is valued.
And Joan, so we had, in addition to those meetings, you joined us for the GSP advisory.
That's just one meeting,
Right.
forget
So
it.
tomorrow is the same. Tomorrow is going to be all about the advisory committee members and them being able to one at a time respond to the overall package of it.
And ask this gentleman. what
Yes,
he thinks.
but just so that you know, when we looked at that whole list of all the meetings, so there were those meetings like you
Yeah.
attended, and there
Yes.
has been 10 of them in the last 8 months.
I know I have to catch up.
So then there are subcommittee meetings on every single one of those things. Now we talked about water budget that last time, and we talked about there's been meetings for every single one of those components as well, that advisory committee members
Maybe they know more
and
than I
members
think
of
they
the
do.
public have come.
Yeah, maybe
So-
they understand better than I think they do.
So there's been other opportunities for more, just
Give and
to
take.
talk about it. Yes,
Give and take.
definitely. And I think
That's
you'll
right.
see that on the videos when you start to look at them. So definitely more discussion time with it. So. So the first section is just, like I said, it's a overview, general Sigma, and it's pretty basic. And there may be some things that people want to know, like Sky, I'm thinking now that you talked about that whole medium priority basin thing. I talk about the fact that we're medium priority and that Scotts Valley is a low priority, but I never talked about the fact that how the state designated that. So that might be a good question to add it here too. Why did we get designated medium priority basin? So that might be a good one. And we can put that as kind of one of the transition ones. So then we come down to Big Valley Basin and its groundwater, talking about some of this follows the GSP specifically. So things like we talk about basin characterization, basically all that is kind of a profile of what the basin is. So we give a little bit of the details of that as well in here. Who uses groundwater? Who manages the groundwater? How does that work? So we know that the board of directors of the GSA is also the sitting board of supervisors, but then how does this advisory committee get in here as well? Scott, did you have a question for that?
Well, yeah, the user list, I can see three things that at least should be added. Business use is left out, like grocery stores and restaurants and all that. Otherwise, we have a long list. Real estate offices, all the various businesses in and around Kelseyville are not included in that list. Medical use, we have medical clinics. That's absolutely important. They have water, good clean water. And firefighting is not mentioned here. Those are three that came to my mind right away. They're super important that are not mentioned. And I think all of those are probably related to the special district water system in vast majority. And I'm actually not sure, Scully Packing, are they on the special district system or they're on wells? I'm not really clear.
I don't know.
Yeah, but anyway, either way, they classify as business or they'd be agricultural in either way. But I think we need to, think more broadly if there are important uses that need to be mentioned here.
Okay.
Those three came to me in just a matter of 30 seconds. So firefighting for sure.
Firefighting was in last year's grand jury report
Oh, good.
and included wells, which there's almost no information on it.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah. So then we go down and we talk about why. One thing we do hit on is why is Lake County required to do this? We get that a lot, okay? This is a big undertaking. There are a lot of people doing this. It is a very quick timeline. The submission's coming up quickly. Why do we have to do this? So that's in there. When is it due? People ask that. And one of the important reasons of why that's in there is because all of the critically overdraft and high priority basins had to have theirs in 2 years ago. So theirs have already gone in. The what information will I find in the Big Valley Basin could be 3 pages itself. Try to consolidate it down to things that people may be most interested in, the parts that they made, but that could definitely slide around based on other things. How can I learn more about the Big Valley Basin? The ever-present question about will there be fees associated with it? What issues does the plan look at? We talk about those undesirable results, and we try to stay away from really getting into the technical speak of the sustainable management criteria and the thresholds and all the different things. And that in and of itself could be an entire term paper length type thing, but just trying to kind of hit some of that. But any of these could be expanded if we had like sub questions to things or however. The question about is my well going to go dry because of Sigma, specifically, is it going to kind of, put my water out of business type thing. So that's answered. And then also that reporting of dry well and how critical it is to report the dry wells to both the state and to the county offices as well. So to encourage people to do that. You'll see that there's also that on the fact sheet, because that's one of the things I think people are most interested in. I've missed out on the meetings. I haven't been here yet. What do I do to catch up kind of thing? So how can you catch up is on here. And then also how can I stay apprised of what's coming up? Like what's going to happen, what's coming up. So certainly this is just a beginning. For the most part, I think most basins generally tend to have on their website sections with about, I'm going to say 20 questions, 30 questions total. It doesn't get exhaustive with it. But it could, if that's, I think what you'll see is things will drop off. Things like, why do we have to do this as it gets submitted? And then it'll start to roll into other things about water project and management actions. And what is this funding from? Who pays for that kind of thing? So, certainly anybody could add to this. And in fact, the very last thing says that if you have an additional question that's not on here, to submit it, and then we can put it on. And then just over time, we can kind of sift through that. And we can always keep the archive of the frequently asked questions, even if they're not on the main landing page of it. But just a place people can go to get just their questions answered. One of the hard things I think about this process is that people come at it with very different expertise. So, someone like David, who's really, I think he went back to the prioritization of the basins and knowing all of that. And, then somebody who says, I don't understand what groundwater is. Can you help me understand that? So trying to provide different types of materials and different ways of one-on-one communicating with people. And as hopefully the pandemic starts to ease a little bit, being able to have more public opportunities to sit around and to chat about it, to go out to homeowners meetings, homeowners association meetings. I mean, that's phenomenal, something with next door, some cool little thing that we can be able to put up on it. But so many of those things have been curtailed because of nobody wants, most people aren't meeting, let alone wanting people from the outside to come in to meet with them too. So.
Thank you, Christy.
Yeah.
So I would say I think it's great if the questions were numbered first off, so I'll be able to tell you a number, blah, blah. But anyway, the question about fees, I think that answer is, in my view, evasive. Because the main thing I get from people who don't know really anything or very little about the process, they want to know how much it's going to cost me and who's going to pay. And what I keep saying is, or what I keep hearing is, that everybody figures the other people are paying. Like one guy I talked with, anyway, he says, oh, the big vineyards are going to pay. And everybody says, well, they're not. Why should they have to pay? And then, but everybody's kind of like, who's going to pay? And they're going like this, and so I think this kind of thing, and then to put it over on the Board of Supervisors, to me, it's an evasive, incomplete answer, and it's super important.
And I can tell you a little of the thinking behind that, Sky, and this is somewhat takes into account the 2 years worth of the critically overdrafted basins that have had these questions go on. I think the important thing about how this question is answered in here is it talks about the fact that if you truly want to know like how this is going to unroll, because we don't know, right? We don't have those exact things to be able to say, here's the definitive cost of it. We know ranges of things. That if they get involved and if they come, that process won't leave them behind or leave them out. I think the important message for people right now is if you want to know how this impacts you, then you need to be part of the process. Is it catching up on the videos that we already have? And I think even when we go back to in person, I'd love to see some recording things because people work, people work all different hours and may not be able to get to it. So that on-demand ability to pull their own information when they need to is going to be really important. But I think that's the important message to come out of this. And I think the commitment to transparency is acute with this particular group. So as they do know more, I think you'll get a very straight answer with how that's all going to enroll. But the important thing is nothing happens without you at the table if you decide to come to the table and be part of this too, and part of the planning and part of the implementation of it. But again, this is the community's frequently asked questions.
Well, I would guess that the special district customers are presuming that the special district's representative is going to take care of them on this. And I'm kind of getting the sense that most people think special districts, the public water system, is going to pay next to nothing or nothing. In fact, there was one scenario presented to us where they were not included. And I mean, to me, that's the first thing that hit me. And so I advocated in this financing and implementation meeting, a specific ratio of cost sharing that got no response. But to me, that's the kind of thing that should be in this, and we should be looking at suggesting. And I know nobody likes to volunteer that I'm willing to pay that much, but I mean, that's kind of what needs to happen. And so, you may remember that comment. I suggest there be a split between agriculture, and there's a debate about how agriculture pay. And I said, well, I think the agricultural industry should devise their split of their share, not for non-farmers to debate that, but that agriculture should have a share, the public water system should have a share, and the domestic well owner should have a share. And I threw out to begin the discussion as a 60-20-20 split. And I don't know if that's included in tomorrow's presentation or not.
It's not. The concepts are still on the table.
Yeah.
But what we need to do is we need to agree on a total cost of the plan. Sit down with the county and figure out what are they willing to chip in, and then come back to the financial ad hoc and walk through the process.
Okay, I thought we were out of time on anyway.
There's no on the financing. We're in good shape really till April, and then we need to start figuring out how we're going to start, implementing.
Yeah, that doesn't have to be definitively decided by the time the plan is put in, but I'll tell you that plan doesn't go in, you won't be deciding that, somebody else will be deciding that for you, and it will be local. So
But that is, I mean, when when people tell me, oh, I don't need to worry about it, I say, well, what if you end up with a big bill? What do you mean? I'm not paying. I mean, I pay how many times I've heard that. Why would I have to pay? So anyway, I thought that was the thing. And then I would say on this, the third question there, the one is my well at risk of going dry? Better phrase that. Will my, something more, will my well be protected from going dry by the GSP? That would be more positive. And and anyway.
And then does anyone who is calling in via Zoom, do you guys have any questions? All right, I'm not hearing none. All right, so we are coming up to the top of the hour. Do we want to run through real quick on the 2-pager that we have? Does anyone have any questions or comments on that?
It's a little, and just to, how are they different? I think that I would say that the 2-page handout is meant for someone who may be completely new to this process and not understanding of any of it. So it's the basics of what is groundwater, who's managing it in the basin, what does Sigma do, what is Sigma type thing. And then the bottom part is just a quick little checklist of what kind of things are contained in this groundwater sustainability plan that we're putting together. And again, those can change, you know, that could be an exhaustive list or it can be a very top line list. And again, all the appropriate websites and contact information. And one of the things also that you'll see threaded through some of this is realizing that not everybody has access to a computer. So you'll see often that, you know, just call Water Resources, or if you do have the ability to get to an email them. You know, this team has been really, really good about printing things out and being able to share information when there is any type of barrier to access. And so just making sure that that stays going forward as well. So it's important. Although I'll tell you, I've gotten booted off my internet in Sacramento more than the meeting has. I always say, maybe I should go get the internet link in Sacramento. No.
And I haven't met you. Your name is what?
David Weiss.
David Weiss?
Yeah.
And you are?
Daniela,
Okay. Are you part of the Lake County or part of?
I'm part of Lake County Water Resources.
Yeah, so Daniela serves as a program coordinator. She's done some groundwater monitoring. She helped really carry the weight for that when she first joined the team, but she has plenty of other things on her plate as well. She's here today to help us with translation services. So, yeah.
And I would love to know how you as a homeowners association person ended up here. Like, how did you hear about us? What kind of questions? How can we be helpful to you?
Well, I served on the grand jury when we went into COVID lockdown, so whenever that was, I've lost track. And one of our investigations was about fire.
Oh, okay.
And I went actively looking for how to get information on wells and what happens if we have a fire and I have a PSPS, and then all those people can't fight fires.
Okay.
And a lot of that came at me because of my good friend Sky Hoyt, who's always badgering about something. And he happened to give me a heads up about this because he knows I'm interested in water.
Sure.
I'm a retired history teacher with a lot of time on my hands.
Okay.
And a lot of interest.
Do you do a lot of work in the fire section of it, or is it just the grand jury kind of?
I have a very broad range of
Okay.
interests, water being one.
Okay. Fire is a, and use of water is a very big thing, clearly for Sky and his radio show too, but for some of the GSPAC members and for some of our DWR regional reps too. So that's why I asked that. So it's a big interest item.
And our HOA is on the water, and our neighboring HOA is on the water, and I don't think any of my neighbors know anything about any of this, and they all need to, especially in this age while we're a foot and a half below zero on zero.
Yeah.
I know that they're not directly connected, but you know, if there's not enough recharge, then what happens? Sure. My doctor's currently on adrenaline still.
And I want to know your name again and where you've studied. And I want to know how you can say the groundwater in the Big Valley is healthy and rising. when everything else on the top is drying up. And seeming to we have had a couple good days of rain, but I want to know where you studied and what kind of education you have. And how you can say that the groundwater is helping.
Let me answer all those right now.
Just a little bit, so that,
So my name,
in a layman's terms.
sure. So my name.
I'm sorry, I just really want to know.
Yeah, so my name is Eddie Teasdale, and I work for Ludlow and Scotland Consulting. So I am a professional geologist in California,
Professional geologist.
and
And you studied where?
I'm a certified hydrogeologist in California.
Where?
I'm also a certified hydrogeologist in California,
Okay,
and I got my undergraduate at the University of Texas. I got my master's at the University of Idaho.
so you've never actually lived in California?
I've lived in California for 20 years and worked in California for about 25.
So Eddie is going to be very humble here, so I will out you on this, Eddie. Eddie's company that he works for is not my company. We are partners in this project. Ludorf and Scalmanini is one of the most esteemed groundwater agencies for engineering. They're a privately held company, just beyond. I mean, just really, really well thought of, well respected. It's the first time I've ever worked with them, which has been quite the treat, but very, very inserted into groundwater specifically.
Okay, and how do you?
So then, yeah, your second set of questions about stability. So we have lots of wells out in Big Valley. Some of those wells are, constructed poorly, some are constructed well. But if you look at the historical trends of groundwater levels in Big Valley from those wells, for the most part, they've been stable. They bounce around seasonally. When there's dry periods, they drop. But if you look at the projected trends since about 1969, most of the water levels are stable. So looking at real data from wells, water levels are stable. So that's one piece of information we look at. And also we developed a water budget that looked at surface water, groundwater, interaction between the water budget, like the checking account, it's balanced. So the ends equal out. Generally, year to year it changes, but if you look at the last 25 years or so, it's balanced.
What about the geothermal waters?
Well, let's talk about those a little bit. So your concern about geothermal waters are that they're impacting the water quality in Big Valley? Is that your concern?
I'll read you the letter tomorrow, I don't.
But again, going back to sustainability, water levels have been pretty stable, haven't changed very much. Water quality in Big Valley is excellent. I mean, there's not a lot of issues with water quality. But looking at historical data, we've done some recent sampling with DWR.
I beg to differ.
Yeah, that's,
Okay,
and you,
I'll differ tomorrow.
well, what you should do is share some information, share some data that you can share, show me where it came
Yeah,
from, and we'll have a
I do.
conversation. Let's do it. That's what it's all about.
I wrote it up.
I'd like to ask a question of what you said, Ludorf and what?
Scalmanini.
Scalmanini?
Scalmanini, and just like it sounds, SCALMINI.
I'm not trying to cut you.
No, 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 no.
Scalmanini.
This is your water supply. We wanna make sure we protect it.
SCALM.
Scal, in case Bella, Eddie, you probably know it off the top of your head. He's got it.
So can you clarify for me again? So I'm writing this down.
Sure.
So this is a corporation, a consulting company.
Company, about 50
Okay.
people.
So, about 50 people. So do you have a financial stake in this report or in Lake County in general?
So we were hired by Lake County, who got a grant from DWR. So all of this is getting paid through a grant from DWR.
And then with that, just to piggyback off of that, so per the county policy, we have to go through, county purchasing code, et cetera. So we released a request for proposals. And with that, we sent out, here is, this is the project we're looking for. We're trying to get competitive bids, right?
So that's what this.
Yeah, so then we had a committee that reviewed the documents, and that committee, based off of their recommendations and the policy and the protocol, they deemed Ludorf and Scalmanini, in partnering with Stantec, the most appropriate and team that would be successful in the development of the GSP. Since this was grant funded, again, they don't have a stake in this. They're getting paid from a grant that we oversee and that we were awarded from the California Department of Water Resources. They're the professionals. We didn't have the capacity to do this document in-house. So therefore, we went out for the request for proposals, got 3 different bids, and Ludorf and Scalmanini came out on top with that qualification criteria.
And how much is this document costing?
So we were awarded a little under 1.4 million from the Sustainable Groundwater Management Plan, round 3, which is planning. They also have a grant for implementation. So these funds can only be used for the development of this groundwater sustainability plan. We do have all that grant contract, because again, that's promising that we will use these funds as outlined in task A, B, C, and D. So we have task A, which is admin. So the cost that it takes us to write these progress reports, have these conversations with DWR to do the coordination. Task B, which is GSP development, that is outlined clearly again, as required by Sigma. What do they need to do? So what is Eddie and Christie's team tasked with doing to make sure they meet? And then we also have stakeholder engagement and outreach. So the cost that it took about roughly $20 to print that entire document. Those costs were billed to the grant. So we got a little under 1.4 million. We have a strict budget that we need to adhere and we report to. William does all the project reporting to the state because they want to make sure if they're giving us this money for this task that we need to actually complete it. So we have goals and deliverables that we have to meet to make sure that we can remain eligible for funding in the future. Because again, we're not rolling in the money here. So it's important that we make sure that we find these funding opportunities. That way we can do the best job that we can do.
And is that budget included in these publicly available documents?
Yeah, so that's all on the
So it's
website.
on that, okay.
Yeah, so you'll be able to see, and with that, we went before the board too, because to even apply for the grant, we had to ask for permission from the board to make sure that it's a proper use of funds. And then also to accept it, we had to accept those, we had to go to the board. This is what we were able to get after we were able to apply for that grant. We were awarded these funds. Can we accept it? After we went out to RFQ. After we got RFQ and the selection committee selected the most appropriate consultant, we went to the board to ask for permission to go into contract with these consultants and actually implement the agreement that we have, the county has with Ludorf and Scalmanini. So all that information is available on our website, and then I can also point that to you too as well. Yeah.
So Eddie's company, what was your cut of the 1.4?
Yeah, I mean, it was
It's not
Sandvik and
half.
I team gets
Yeah.
the 50-50 split.
Yeah, okay, so you got 700,000.
No, there's other-
There's other tasks. So like, for example, we have part of it for admin. So the money that it costs us to actually manage this grant, to do these
It
coordination
goes into
meetings.
your department.
Yes, but it all goes back to this project. So we don't hold in, I don't get any money from that. I don't get a paycheck from that, but it's,
Not directly.
no.
But it's nice that we can also, like, when we work on it and when I go out and we have these meetings, we charge that back to the grant. So it's actually not being put back on the taxpayers. It's being charged to that grant money. So we have more time and more funds to do other projects related to water resources.
And that's not the only funding that DWR has given to the county too. So all of the creating the advisory committee, that entire process was funded by DWR as well through another just kind of a allotment of money. It's called the Facilitation Support Services. And Stantec works on that as well. I mean, that's been ongoing for, we're coming up on 2 years
yeah.
almost in March, it'll be 2 years.
So Eddie and Christie, how many basins have you been working on over the last several years?
Lots.
Yeah, so there was the 2020 plan, so those are the critically overdrafted basins. There were 21 plans, we were involved about 10 of them. And then this next phase with the medium and high priority, I think there's 30, 40 of them, and we're involved with about 10.
And so we work on various different aspects of them, and then we work on the overall state contract as well for Sigma. So we have the whole statewide contract for Sigma for 5 years.
So we're kind of a second tranche. So the ones that are further ahead, is it safe to say that the majority of the costs after you start implementing these programs, is that grant money? And where is the money coming from statewide to fund the majority of these? Some of these are much bigger than ours, of course.
I'll address what I know and then Christie jump in. So what I've seen on the 2020 plans is on the implementation side for the day-to-day operations, the annual reports, the 5-year updates, that's being funded by the locals. the larger projects, indoor management actions that are put in place, which are typically have a higher dollar amount. There's
Lots of
grant-
capital.
There's
costs,
grants,
right?
there's grants out there that folks are tapping into to get there. So we're, and I've seen some entities try to put the cost of projects and management actions on the stakeholders, but it's just not affordable. So that's kind of what we've seen. So, and I envision something similar in this space.
Yeah.
And same, just a variety, it just really depends. So most other basins, what's really unique about this particular basin is you have one GSA and one GSP. So like I work in a basin that has 26 GSAs and 13 GSPs, all supporting one basin. So, it varies and it depends, and it's a lot of, we do a lot of, in our office, a lot of interbasin coordination with basins that don't even have models that show the same things. And then how do you start to marry those things so you can co-manage it together?
Can you
So
talk
it just-
about adjudication as well?
Yeah, so I mean, we don't do as much adjudication with it as well. We work on some of the facilitation support services that are kind of tangential to that as well. I can't stress enough how different each basin is. It's hard to characterize and say, well, you've got this collection of basins and this. And that's kind of the beauty of Sigma, but it's also the struggle, right? Because everybody's kind of got to come to it on their own. And there's a lot of things you don't know with Sigma too, like you just, there's the regulations, there's what you gotta do, but then, well, how do you do this? And it's like, well, nobody's really done that before.
I'm ready for break.
Okay. And it is 6:57, so I do want to be respectful of people's times. And as much as I would love a slumber party in the board chambers, I did not bring my overnight bag. So we'll be here for about roughly 10 more minutes or so. If there's any other questions, we do have the diagrams up here, big copies that you all are welcome to look at. But other than that, we're here. Talk to us.
And I can get you my business card too.
Oh, that would be
Yeah.
lovely. Thank
So-
So we're
you.
formally done now.
We're never done,
And we
Sky.
have two members of the public?
It was one member of the public.
One member of the
Yeah.
public. It wasn't David Weiss this time, we don't know.
Where is the in-person meeting tomorrow?
So it's gonna be conference room on the third floor.
And how much space is?
We have pretty good space. There's about 10 people. I would say with COVID and social distancing, I would say roughly 6 or 8 people could fit there comfortably.
So should I just log in?
You could, I believe there, Sky, you're gonna join us in person, right?
It's really nice. There's
There's plenty of space.
Oh, man, it's so much better, I gotta tell you. You
Yeah.
can see the
And we have
stuff
the
and
big
Eddie's talking and
screen.
you can get his attention right away.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
encourage
lot.
you, if you'd like to-
It is a
anything
lot.
else. And if anything, we're right there, so if one of us has to go to the office to make more space.
Okay.
I don't think. it's a So, yeah, if you could join us in person, that'd be great. But no pressure, of course.
No pressure.
No pressure, after I just gave you that long spiel, it'd be great if you could join us in person, but no pressure.